How are we this morning? Good, yes. You're in for a treat this morning. Someone who sat in your class, how many years ago?
4 or 5-ish.
4 or 5 years ago. And he's going to share the fruits of his wisdom. And I think his wisdom's a bit like mine. It's through making many mistakes that we learn. But Scott Townsend is one of the most entrepreneurial people I've ever met. And I feel like kind of knowing him is like having a bit of a touch on the pulse of the future. And periodically we get together for a coffee, and I find that I was just about catching up with his last idea when he's run through that, run on to the next one, and he's got something absolutely new. And I don't think I'd be giving secrets away to say that he doesn't like presenting in public.
No.
And it's something, as you're knowing with the CEO speeches, that you need to get over. And he's got a lot to share, and he's also shares a lot of himself. So would you put your hands together for Scott Townsend?
Hello. So I want to share with you a bunch of points of view just on life, that I wish I could have shared with myself about 10 years ago when I was about your age. Just would have made my life a lot easier. But I probably wouldn't have listened anyway. So with sharing these points of view, I'm not trying to sell you on anything. I'm not trying to convert you to any way of thinking. But what I do ask is that you try and make sense of things. It's not about what's right or what's wrong. It's about sense and nonsense. Can we make sense of this point of view? Can we make sense of this? Can we make sense of that? That's a little bit of nonsense. And just because you can make sense of something does not mean that you have to accept it. You can understand it and reject it, that's fine. As Bruce Lee would say, take what's useful and discard what's not. Or one of my favourite ones from Abraham Lincoln, which is don't trust everything that you read on the internet. So I think one of the most important things as humans and what we want is we want to really feel connected to something, whether that's ourselves, other people, our friends, our partners, our dog, our favourite sports team, maybe political party, food, sex, drugs, whatever it is. We're looking for some kind of connection, some kind of comfort, some kind of shared understanding. So I want to see what we all share in common here. Put your hands up and keep your hands up if you're breathing. Wicked. Now high five, if you can. Psh. Awesome. You can put your hands down now. Thank you. No, but I'm really excited to be here, okay? And not in front of all of you beautiful people, although that is a pleasure. Thank you, David. But just happy to be alive and really excited to be able to experience life. The dream does begin at the end of the nose. I want to see what else we share in common. How else we're all connected here. Put your hands up and keep your hands up if you're going to die. Now high five. It feels a little bit different, doesn't it? You can put your hand down, but thank you very much. I do like your enthusiasm. That's all right. We can still be friends. It feels a little bit different, doesn't it? And it's something that we don't really like to think about, but it's just as important as being alive, as we're all going to die. You have to attack life because it's going to kill you. But I mean, attack life positively, not in a barbaric, monkey kind of way, like attack life in a positive way. It's about finding that thing that you love doing and then doing that. But it can be a really hard thing to be a person sometimes. You know, you don't get a qualification to become a, fully qualified, certified human. There's no courses, there's no user manual. You're just born and we're put into this world and you just got to kind of figure it out and do the best that you can. Yeah, so the point of this talk, I'm just going to fire some random points of view at you. They're not necessarily in any kind of order. They may even be a little bit incoherent, but we'll just see how it goes. I really like the concept of what an adult is. Like I remember when I was a child, I'd look up at my parents and I'd be like, yeah, they know what they're doing. They've got it all figured out. One day I'm going to grow up, I'm going to be an adult, and I'm going to understand what it all means. Then I'm 20-something, and someone says to me, "Can I help you, sir?" Sir? And that's kind of when it hit me. I'm like, holy shit, I'm an adult. Nobody knows what they're doing. People like to think we know what we're doing, and we're trying to do the best that we can, but we're really just monkeys with language on a giant rock, flying through space, trying to figure it out. So we're all just kind of winging it. Yeah. And we're told what the purpose of life is. Come and get an education, get a nice job, get some security, get some stability, get a partner, get a family. I don't really prescribe to that. I think the purpose of life is to cultivate positive energy. It's to be a good person to yourself, to be a good person to others, and then it's finding that thing that spins your wheels, that lights you up, that gets you excited. What's that thing that you're just like, oh, I really want to do this? For me, that's the purpose of life. And it's going to be different for everyone. You might be crazy about finger painting. Someone else might be crazy about web design, whatever. Personal development is, I think, the most staple ingredient in your life. That's why you guys are here, probably, unless your mum told you to come. I bet she's lovely. But, it's about improving yourself however you can, becoming the strongest version of yourself, in whatever way. But it can be quite hard sometimes, because we think a lot, The average person, I don't know how they figured this out, but the average person thinks about 70,000 thoughts a day. Okay? There are 86,400 seconds in a day, some of which we're sleeping. So if this is right, the average person thinks more than a thought per waking second. So we're lost in this world of thought. And it can be a really difficult thing to be a person sometimes with all these different thoughts. We don't know what to think, we don't know who we are. It can get quite complicated. It can all get a little bit much. But what you see is what you get. The world is the way that you look at it. I could look at my watch and I could be, this is amazing, the future's now. It helps me get organised and I can look at my watch and be like, this thing's great. Or I can look at it and be like, no, I don't like orange. I just really don't like this thing. I'm just going to throw that away. Good shot. But life is how you look at it, okay? And life's kind of organised chaos, all right? So let's say I've got a cut on my arm here. I don't, But if I did, and we looked at it under a microscope, on a, what's the word that I'm looking for? Bacteria level, that's the one, big words. If we looked at the cut on my arm under a microscope on a bacteria level, you'd see that it's chaos, Things are fighting and there's all these germs and you look at it and you're like, whoa, settle down, that's madness. But then when you take a step back and look at me, I'm sitting here, I'm talking, somewhat making sense. It's organised chaos, it's fine. And then you could look at maybe some things that are going on in my life or that have happened or that's happening on a human perspective, some of the wars that are going on, some of the, for lack of a better word, fucked up and twisted things that people do. And you can look at these things and you can go, that's really messed up. That if you look at it through this aperture, you can say, that's really messed up. But then you take a step back and look at the world on a planetary level. It's just organised chaos, it's fine. It's just this little planet floating in space. So life is how you look at it. So be careful how you look at life, because that's the way it's going to be. If you look at life and go, this is hard, this isn't fair, then this is the way it's going to be. But if you look at life and if you're like, wow, the dream really does begin at the end of the nose, then that's the way it's going to be for you. Write stuff down. My first business mentor, about 8 or 9 years ago, gave me this piece of advice. He said, think it, ink it, do it, review it. It comes from a book called Wink and Grow Rich from Roger Hamilton, that specific phrase, although people have been writing stuff down for ages. But the real value that I have found in this, I've been carrying around a notebook now for about 8 years, is if you have a thought, if you have something that you want to do, acknowledge it, write it down, move on. And what that does is it gives you space for more thoughts, going back to we think 70,000 thoughts a day, much of which is frivolous, it has no real value, wondering what we're going to have for dinner, what that person did to us, 5 years ago, what these people might think of us. So when you have something that's important, whether it's an idea, something that you need to do, write it down, acknowledge it, move on, create space. But it's also what's called a neuromuscular activity, It's, neuro is your brain interacting with your body. It's a bit of an activity because thoughts are a very real thing, But if we were to crack my head open, you went hunting for some thoughts, you wouldn't find them, but they're real. And by writing them down, the way that I look at it, it's like an evolution of thought. It's the thought growing into something. It's now this idea in your head, now it's something more tangible, and then if you do something with it or not, it's up to you. But write stuff down. So I've always had a notepad on me ever since I had that bit of advice, and I've essentially reprogrammed my life, the way that I look at things, the things that I want to do with my own health or my career, things like that. It's a really powerful thing, setting this intention, and it's a really good time to spend with yourself. And it's really important to have a vision, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And the reason they call it a vision is because what's it going to look like? What's it going to look like when you get there? What's it going to feel like? What's it going to smell like? What's it going to taste like? What are you going to, what kind of emotions have you got going on? The clearer you are about your vision, the better, But it's never about the destination, it's never about getting there, it's always about the journey. But you've got to have some kind of general direction to head in, and that you really enjoy. And then if you change your mind, that's fine, you're an adult. You can have pancakes for dinner if you want, I do. But once you know what you want, you've got to go and get it, all right? No one's going to hand it to you on a plate, okay? Once you know what you want, you've got to go out there, attack it, you've got to go get it. And fuck average, all right? So once you know what you want, go and get it and put in as much effort as you can. Life is a direct result of what you put in, okay? You put in a bad result, or you put in a bad effort, you're going to get a bad result. You put in an average effort, you're going to get an average result. You put in an awesome effort, you're going to get an awesome result. And it's called your life for a reason. It's because it's your life. If you take shortcuts, if you're only cheating on yourself. So life's like a mirror. What you put in is what you get out. Comfort zones. Public speaking freaks me out. It does. I remember the first presentation that I did when I went back to study. It was a group presentation. There were about 20 people in the class, and there was me and 4 others standing there. I had my sunglasses on in class, reading off my cue cards. I was that scared. I should have worn a diaper as well, because it was, it was that far out of my comfort zone. But the concept of comfort zones, all right, we all live within this zone of comfort. Now, these are things that we're comfortable doing. It could be talking to your mum, hanging out with your friends, walking your dog, all these kind of things. But then outside of our comfort zones are things that we're uncomfortable doing. It could be talking to people, it could be skydiving, it could be walking up to someone in a bar and be like, how you doing, kind of thing. But the more time that you spend outside of your comfort zone doing things that you're uncomfortable doing, the bigger that your comfort zone grows, okay? So fear. I'll give you a quick two and a half million year backstory on fear. Okay, so we've evolved over 2.5 million-ish years, depending on who you talk to. And we've grown up in an environment that wants to kill us, all right? We've had to survive, you know, animals, dinosaurs, lions, all these things trying to eat us, other humans trying to kill us. And so, as you know, being that we're a product of our environment and being in this environment over such a long time, we've biologically developed part of our brain, you know, we've got this massive amygdala. And, you know, from what I understand, I'm not a scientist, is that is responsible for fear. You know, it keeps us on guard. We're always looking for something, like what's going to eat us kind of thing. And we've still got this. We've got monkey brains, all right? But now, we're living in a time in history that's the most peaceful, okay? You're least likely to die at the hands of another person than ever before. You know, you can walk down the street, and most of the time you're going to be sweet. And we're living, so we're living in the most peaceful time. You know, the media might tell you something different. So now that our basic needs have been met, you know, you could bring in Maslow's hierarchy here, but we don't need to, you know, defend ourselves all the time. But we've still got this monkey brain, all right? So our fear manifests as psychological bullshit, you know? What does this person think of me? What am I going to look like, you know? And it can inhibit us in doing things. So there's fear and danger, and they're two very different things. Fear is, you know, worried about talking in front of people for whatever reason. It's just an idea, an illusion. But whereas danger is a truck that's about to run you over, they're two different things. So watch out for danger, but, you know, fear's a liar. No safety nets. I really like this concept of throwing yourself in the deep end, you know, and then you're either going to learn how to swim or you're going to drown. But once you know what you want to do, you know, throw yourself at it. Make it so there's no way back, you know, and so you fully commit yourself, you know, so you're right out of your comfort zone and you can't get back in there. I like Travis Barker from Blink-182. He's a drummer. He was like mid-20-something, and all of his friends were getting jobs and putting on suits and this, and he's like, this isn't for me. So what he did is he got neck tattoos right the way up here. So then no one would hire him, and he had to pursue his dream of becoming a drummer. So, you know, you only live once. Find out what you want to do and then throw yourself at it. And what others think of you, you know, they could be like, crazy bastard, what are you doing that for? It's none of your business. What someone else thinks is none of your business. You know, they're entitled to think whatever they like, and they will. You can't please everybody. Don't try. But I think the real danger is that we're gullible enough that we believe our own bullshit. Okay, it doesn't matter what other people think, all right? But like as people, we want to do the right thing. We want to do the right thing. And so we create these beliefs that justify to ourselves that we are doing the right thing. You know, whether it's eating that extra bit of cake or maybe, you know, doing something nasty or whatever. Like, I'll just throw an extreme example out there. But let's say we go and talk to someone in a prison or a mental hospital or something like that. For the most part, what they did, they believe was the right thing. Okay, and we do the same thing. We do it every day. You know, we create these little justifications to ourselves. So we believe we're doing the right thing. So it doesn't matter what other people think, but be careful of your own self-talk, of the things that you say to yourself. That's the only important thing. Success. I want to become successful. I want this. Without that story, that's just an idea. Without the story that I want to become successful, you already are, okay? Just from being alive. And it's just an idea that you want something else that you don't have already. So be careful of that self-talk too. But authenticity. I think the best thing we can do as people is become the strongest version of ourselves. Just be yourself. You know, unless you can be Batman, then be Batman. But, you know, be true to who you are. Be yourself. And it can be a hard thing to do sometimes. can be a hard thing to be yourself because we think so much, we process information in so many different ways. We're kind of just a really complicated computer and transfer of neurons, informations. So I like to think of the way that we process information as kind of head, heart, and gut. You know, I could get scientific and put big names on it, but I probably wouldn't be able to pronounce them, so we'll leave that out. But head, you know, we think up here, and you know when you're thinking up here, this is the, 1 + 1 = 2. This is the, the cognitive processing. And then our heart, this isn't 1 + 1 = 2, this makes no sense. You know, it's how do we feel? We're passionate, we're angry, you know, we're in love, these kind of things. And we feel that there, the pain, the hurt, when you get that, you feel that there, you know that. And then our gut, this kind of intuitive intelligence that we have within us, you know, and you're just like, oh, I've got this gut feeling, I don't know what it is, but I've got that. So you've got to learn to listen to yourself, you know, to become yourself authentically, and then learn to listen to yourself, because you know a lot more than you think you do. You know, your body's a very, very smart thing. It's about learning to listen to that. And it's not about what your head's saying, it's not about what your heart's saying, it's not about what your gut's saying, but it's about the alignment of all these things, and just going, how do I feel about this? So learn to listen to yourself, because you know you better than anybody else does. Food. So, yeah, like I said, random points of view, here we go. But I think food is such an important thing in just who you are. It's really simple, you know, you are what you eat, okay? And people, you know, we've become so disconnected from our food. We don't really eat food, we more eat food like products, you know? So my food philosophy is quite simple. Like, if I can't pronounce it, you know, which rules out a lot of things, I don't eat it. It comes in a bag or a box, I generally don't eat it. But food has such an important role in your mental well-being, just your general health, your emotional well-being. So, you know, that's a staple place to start. And, you know, I could sit here and rant on about food for a while because I'm really passionate about it. And then, you know, someone else is going to say something about it, it's going to be completely different. So when it comes to things like this, everybody sees something different. So in my experience, the best thing was that I could do is I educated myself on how does the body work, what are these different chemicals, what's the breakdown of food, just so I understand what's this essential fuel that I'm putting in your body, because it's your fuel, all right? Yeah, so you are what you eat. It's pretty simple, you know, but it's as complicated as we want to make it. Exercise, this is another really important thing. Going back to our body's been designed over millions of years to get into the state that it is. You know, we are like monkeys with language, and I don't mean to offend by saying that. But, you know, now we live in a time that's so sedentary. You know, you drive to university, you sit down, you come to class, you sit down, you have lunch, you sit down. You know, but we're meant to be moving, jumping on things, swinging on things, fighting, you know, all these kind of things. We're meant to be moving. And I think it's very, very important that we exert this physical, like, prowess, this monkey that we've got within us, through some form of movement or exercise. Just do something and get it out there. Because if you don't, that too will manifest as psychological bullshit. It builds up. You get pissed off by things that don't really matter. You know, what's that person looking at me for? But if you talk to people that work out and that really work out, most of the time they're really chilled out because they've exerted that within them. So when it comes to exercises, find what you like to do and then do that. Educate yourself, that's the best way, because everyone says something different. But you know, life's a dance. And I really like the way I think Alan Watts puts it, is life's kind of like music. You know, and if the point of music was to get to the end, the person who played the shortest note would win. Okay, life's not about a start and an end. It's about what's currently going on. And life's a dance, and it's about learning to be true to yourself, living healthy, and then being able to get into the flow of life with whatever it presents, you know. Just being able to go with it. It's a dance. It's not about arriving at a destination or one day my life will be complete, you know. You've just got to learn to listen to the music and go with it. The present, it's a gift. That's why they call it the present. You know, There's a point in time in my life that I realised I don't actually own anything. You know, whether these be tangible things, these clothes, or these ideas of who I think I am. You know, those just ideas. I don't actually own anything. But the one thing that I do have is experience. As I have experience of what's currently going on, you know, what's currently happening. You know, the dream begins at the end of the nose, even if it's less than desirable. You know, but that's all you've ever got. So learn to make the most of the present moment, because that's all life is a series of present moments. Very often we live in the future or the past. So we live in the past in one of two ways, going, oh, you know, all these bad things happened to me. Here's my sob story. You know, this is what these people did to me. Or on the other side, I was the man about town. You know, I got this trophy, this scratch and sniff sticker. You know, I'm pretty cool. Look at what I've done in the past. And when we live in the past, we never really live in the present, and we think about these things. Or we like to live in the future. You know, creating this mental movie of things that haven't happened. You know, and again, we live in the future in one of two ways. Going, oh, it's only going to be, life's going to be great when I finish my degree, or when I get this car, or when I get that girlfriend, when I get this house. You know, and when you do that, you treat the current moment as a means to an end. You treat that as a vehicle just to get to where you want to go. And then when you get to where you want to go, then you're like, okay, where's the next thing? And you know, you're constantly living in the future. And the other way that we live in the future is in anxiety and fear. You know, let's say I go to this party, I might see this person that I don't get on with, and we start to create these mental movies in our mind. But the only thing that's all an illusion. They're just thoughts, they're just ideas. You don't have to attach to them. But all we've ever got is right now, what's going on. You know, breathing, so important, you know. But most people breathe into their head. You know, they breathe to here. We take short breaths. Then we wonder why we're always caught in our head, why we're always thinking, okay? But when you learn to actually breathe into your body, you know, big, by going out of your mind, you come to your senses. Words like meditation, yoga, things like this, they're quite commonplace now in Western society. Breathing's really important. You know, if you're not that way inclined, you know, if you ever feel stressed out, all it takes is a couple of breaths. You know, so look into that. You know, but life comes in waves. All right, you just need to learn how to surf. There's ups and downs. It goes like this. Okay, it's not like that. You know, so one day the up will be something like maybe you get some free ice cream. You're like, sweet, I really like free ice cream. And then an up the next day could be, oh, I see my friend, or this happened, or this happened. The ups will manifest as lots of different things. And the downs, they too will manifest as lots of different things. Maybe, you know, your dog gets run over, or you cut your finger off, or your friends die, or something like this. But life comes in waves, there's ups and downs. And for there to be an up, there's also got to be a down. You know, otherwise the two don't exist. This is the dualistic nature in which we live. And then after riding these waves for a while and face planting and drowning and all these kind of things, you figure out this is just the way that it is. You know, this is just the way that life is. And it's about learning to let go. You know, learning just to let go of everything. Who you think you are, you know, all these things that you've got to do, your rules and responsibilities. Once you learn to let go, then you really get into the flow of life, because you're not trying to drag these things behind you, take these things with you. You know, if you can't escape it, embrace it, okay? Let's just say you're in a position that's less than desirable. Okay, let's just throw an extreme example out there. Your friend dies, okay? It's probably a bad example, but we'll see how it goes. You know, rather than going, I wish this didn't happen, I wish they were still about, and you beat yourself up on it, and it's hard, you know, I've been there, some of you probably have. And it can be really hard, but instead of going, oh, this shouldn't have happened. You just accept it. Just accept this is the truth. This is the way that things are. I may not have to like it, but I can accept that this is the way things are. And then once you accept things, you can give them space. You know, you're not fighting it. You can go, this is the way that it is, and that's what it looks like, and now I can give it space. You know, the same thing goes on a smaller scale. You know, you might get a little bit annoyed by something. You know, you get angry, and then you get angry because you're angry. You know, it's just this vicious cycle. Instead of just going, oh, well, I'm angry. You know, I admit that. You know, it's not ideal, but rather than fight myself, I'm just going to say, look, I'm a little bit pissed off at the moment. Fuck you, kind of thing. Yeah. Just, you know, truth is our element in whatever form, okay? So whatever goes on, accept it. Let go. Drugs. Here's one thing that I want to talk about. I moved out of home. I left school when I was 14, and then I became a drug dealer for 5 years. And then I came to university, got a better education, you know, learned how to read again, wasn't quite that bad. And then been in business ever since. So I'm experienced in this field. You know, one thing that I want to say is that drugs aren't a problem. They're very honest. You smoke dope, you know what's going to happen. Drink coffee, you know what's going to happen. You inject heroin, you know what's going to happen. Don't do heroin. But drugs, they're very, very honest, and they're not a problem. It's about our relationship with them and how we use things. You know, you could be at a party, you could smoke a joint, hang out with some friends, have a good time. Or you could smoke dope every day and waste your life away. It's about how you use things, which extends to the tools of reality. Right? We live, like, life's a really complicated game, and there are lots of things around us, you know. Things like Facebook, or coming to class, or friendships, or, you know, guns. There's all these different tools in which reality provide. And guns aren't the problem, or politics aren't the problem, or Facebook isn't the problem. The problem or the challenge is about our relationship with these tools and how we use them. You know, like, I could have a fork to sit down and eat a nice salad with it, or I could stab you in the eye. You know, the fork isn't the problem. It's about our relationship with these things and how we choose to use them. Back to the randomness. Treat everyone like grandma. Or if your grandma's not very nice, treat everyone like my grandma. This isn't my grandma. I found this picture on the internet. But I am allowed to use it, just for reference. But we live in a world that's very codependent. We rely on lots of other people to do lots of things. And, you know, I really like this concept of just whoever you run into, just imagine they're like your grandma. You know, like, hey, how's it going, grandma? Kind of thing. What have you been up to? You know, and you're genuinely interested to see these people and to do the right thing. You know, take this concept with you, get you a bit further in your interactions. In communication, communication isn't about talking. It's about listening and genuinely seeking to understand people. You know, and from my experience, very few people actually know how to listen because they're constantly caught in their own heads with their own movies of what's happened in the past or what might happen in the future, or these ideas of who they think they are. Whenever somebody is talking to you, here's an exercise. Whenever somebody is talking to you, if you're thinking about what you're going to say in response while they're still talking, or if you're thinking about something else, you're never actually listening, you know. It's going back to the sense or nonsense. It's about seeking to understand this person or people, what they're saying and why, genuinely seeing it from their point of view, you know, and then being able to see other points of view, and then you can see the difference, what the difference is and why. And, you know, like, again, just because you understand somebody doesn't mean that you have to accept it, but really learning how to listen to people, learning to understand people, you know, it's quite rare, you know. Politics. I think this one's a little bit timely since, you know, this has just all happened. But my view on politics is that, look, if you really want to see change, go look in the mirror. That's where you've got the most influence, is that person in the mirror. Revolution ties in with politics. It's a bit of a buzzword now. People throw that around. Save the children, save the dolphins, save the trees, all these kind of things. And if you look at the world through this aperture, through this meaning, at the dolphins, you can be like, yeah, that makes sense. We need to save those dolphins, revolution. You know, but I think the real revolution that the world needs is one on an individual level, one on an internal level, where people come to the realization that, hey, look, in some way, I'm a small part of the big picture. You know, I am atomically, biologically, and chemically connected to everything. So in some way, I'm a small part of the big picture, and everyone understands that in their own way. But when enough people realize that, hang on, I'm kind of all of this, and what I do does matter, what I think does matter, people just become less of a dick. And it's not about themselves, it's about the well-being of everybody. So I think that's the real revolution people need, is one where they look in the mirror and go, what can I do to become a stronger version of myself, to be a better me? And when enough people do that, when enough people get to this point, you know, that's when the world really starts to see change. Because everyone's out to help everyone, not just themselves. Just an idea. But asking questions, you know, as a child, we're real curious. When we need to maintain this childlike wonder, you know. As a child, we're like, why? We're real curious. Why? And then we're told to shut up and here are the answers, okay? Go away. And that kind of teaches us to stop asking questions because all the answers are already there. You know, but when you learn to ask better questions, you get better answers. And I think the best question that anyone can ever ask of themselves is, who am I? My name's Scott, but that's just a word. That's not who I am. That's a word that people use to describe me. Yeah, so ask, who are you? So, from this talk, I've just shared a bunch of random points of view. But if you could take anything away from this, the one thing I'd like you to take away is that you've got to attack life because it's going to kill you. You know, your time's limited, make the most of it. I've got this hashtag thing, hash browns are delicious. So if you could take one thing away, it's this idea. And it's not my idea, it's anyone's idea. Take the idea, make it your own, embody it. And if you're into that social media and all that stuff, tell people about it, you know. And I've set up this website quickly, last night and this morning. But what it does is it aggregates, it pulls together all the hash browns, you know, so whether that's on Instagram or Twitter or whatever it is that you're into. You know, it's an idea that I think is worth spreading, you know. So if it's something that you're into, please do. And we're out of slides, so, you know, thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions about anything, life or business, feel free to fire away. Yeah, there were many. Yeah, there were. There was. And I'm going to be completely honest about this. You know, the first changing point in my life, you know, because like I moved out of home and I left school when I was 14. Okay, you know, I didn't have any parents. I had to figure out life for myself. You know, so I thought the best thing to do would be do lots of drugs. You know, because that was fun. And when I was about 16, yeah, there was a point in my life where I was on LSD for a long period of time. And what that did is it broke my way of thinking, because we look at the world like this, and that was a tool that just happened to come in, shatter my perception, and then I spent a lot of time looking at things, and that opened that up. You know, but it doesn't have to be like that for everybody. You know, some people, a near-death experience, it happens. You know, you could be out walking your dog, and something happens. You know, you could be doing yoga, you know, and then something happens. So, yeah, there was a point in time in my life, and that was when I was about 16. That's when it started. And then kind of every year I'd have some kind of big, like, epiphany or big realization where I'd sit down and I'd look at everything that was going on, and then I'd go, oh shit, I've got to make some changes here, you know. And then as I kind of got older, these moments of realization, of insight, would get more progressive and more progressive and more progressive. Now it's just kind of how I live, or how I try to, yeah, where I can, yeah. What do? I surround myself with people that are smarter than me. It's not very hard to do. The last 6 years I've had a website design business, and we've been doing web design and all that kind of thing. But I'm just about to make an exit from that, and I've set up a consultancy business called attacklife.co.nz, which is just where I bring my skills and experience of, because I've started 5 businesses now. And I've worked with hundreds of different clients, different sizes, different shapes, different flavors. So now I'm coming into kind of a consultancy kind of role where I take all my experience of starting all these different businesses, of working with the web and working with the marketing, and going, how can we help you attack what you need to do? So that's what I'm doing, at the moment. And I'd really like to start working more towards empowering people, like these kind of talks and that kind of thing. I've made a goal to write a book, and it's going to be called Attack Life, It's Going to Kill You. So that's going to be coming at some point, when it's ready. Yeah. No. No. But that's why I do it. Wherever there's some kind of adversity, wherever there's something that you don't want to do, that's what you need to do the most. You just need to dive headfirst into it and figure it out. Yeah. So no, not at all. It freaks me out. Learn how to breathe. Yeah, properly. Yeah, because then when you learn how to breathe, you slow down. Yeah, and then you take life for what's going on rather than how you think it should be. And let go of any expectations of how you think life should be, because expectations and entitlement are just forms of fantasy. And so just let go, learn how to breathe, and go with the flow, really. Yeah. And like it's okay not to have all the answers. That's another one. It's like you might be like, oh, I don't know what I want to do with myself, or I don't know this, and you get a little bit frustrated. If you don't have the answer, then that's your answer. And it's okay to not know things sometimes, So with whatever stage you're at in life, wherever you're at, be with that. Own it. Accept it. Don't wish it was something else. Yeah. I've had many. My first business mentor was one of them. He was really, really insightful and kind of got me on the right direction. But I guess I think it's a little bit complicated because these ideas, these things that I've shared with you, they're not my ideas. I didn't make them up. They're already there. Let's just call them truths. Let's just call them a truth. And all these truths are always there. They're always out there. But they're reappropriated in many different forms, in many different creative expressions. Whether it be by talking, we could take one truth and 100 different people will say it 100 different ways. Or this truth may be explained in art or dance or something. All right? And it's never about the person that's saying it or that's trying to say, teach things. It's always about the person that's listening. When the person that is listening is ready to hear what they need to hear, it's going to be communicated to them in a form that's most relatable, whether that's someone talking to you, whether it's you see a painting and it makes you think of something. So there are many different mentors and different moments, yeah. And I think, when the person's ready, they're going to be learning these things, or these, topics are going to keep coming up until you learn them. And, from my experience, which is the only thing that I can speak of, is that in every moment in life, in every moment, and that moment depends on you and your awareness, whether that be every year, month, week, day, second, breath, whatever. In every moment, there's always something to either pull you further into becoming a stronger version of yourself, or to pull you further away from that. So, yeah. So there's been lots of people that have influenced my way. This man is one of them. Big props to this man. But yeah, the world's your playground, and there's lessons and insights to be learnt anywhere and everywhere you look, if you choose to look at it that way. Yeah. If you go to just like Aligtky.com, which is an acronym for Attack Life, It's Going to Kill You, if you haven't figured that out, but you look very intelligent, so I'm sure that you have. But there's a page, and it just says, I think it says talk feedback, and it's just a quick form. It can be completely anonymous, but I'd be really keen to hear what your thoughts are on today. The better, you know, the more brutally honest, the better. Some constructive criticism for me would be great. So, yeah, if you can take 2 minutes, it would be great if you could do that for me. Yeah. No, thanks for listening, and thanks for the opportunity, David. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cool.